Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Neon Wranglers Horror Cult, or whatever else you want to call us. First of all, I'm going to take care of the usual business. We have to let you know what the show is about. First and foremost, the most important thing you need to know is I am the sexiest man alive, and not only that, I'm the sexiest man to ever live. That's the most important thing that you need to take away with this tonight. Second of all, we're going to be talking about the greatest monster fights that ever were. And
Quite great. Quite great
Quite
indeed.
great. And I will be telling you about those monster fights and
Hmm.
filling you in. And you can ask any questions you want. You can make any comments you want. If you thought of some that I didn't think of, that's I appreciate the help. But we'll see. And if you have, do that. And I'm first. Next thing I want to do is introduce my co-host over here. Say hi, Jack.
Hello.
Hey, okay. Look, good thing we're not on an airplane because that would get us thrown off. That's a dad joke. So there you go. But anyway, yeah. Before we jump into it, while we're waiting some of our friends to show up, and Miss Jen will join us in the second part of the show. She is out doing her thing. So we always enjoy her company. But that's Mrs. Neon Wrangler. Jack, how was your day? What did you do today?
I sat around and waited for these people to go out and get back from their amazing doctor trip, which
Yeah,
had to get apparently their blood drawn. I think they were there for a little bit longer, if you know what I mean.
5 hours. Okay.
It was long. It
When
was
you
long.
got blood that's as awesome as mine, it takes them a lot longer to draw it. No, we had doctor appointments out of town today, so we had to go do that. And when you're, um, and I don't care what age you are, but when you're old like us, Mrs. Wrangler and I, you got to go get things taken care of. But so we left poor Jack here all that was own, and he told me he ate like 10 sandwiches, right?
Yeah, it was about that. About
Mm-hmm.
10 sandwiches.
And what else did you do?
Watch Boondocks.
It's a good show. I love Boondocks.
Boondocks definitely has some good monster fights in there.
Yeah, Riley and
Riley and Uncle Ruckus.
Uncle
We did-
Ruckus. Yeah.
That's yeah.
And Riley and Huey have gotten into it a few times. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, I watched the episode where they went out and was it Grandpa Agate went out and went to Costa Rica and completely was just sitting there in his hotel room for most of the time. So
I haven't seen. I don't know if I've seen that one.
yeah, no.
But anyway, if you ever get a chance, watch Boondocks. Don't watch it right now, but watch it later.
Yeah, watch it in a little bit, definitely.
So you played some classic WoW too, didn't you? From what I've seen.
Yes, we're quite excited for the release. It's definitely I wouldn't retail's all right. It's not. It's a completely different game in my opinion. There's different. I honestly just have played it casually. Filthy casual all my life, but I prefer classic WoW because it just has it's more rewarding. You could say.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, I know you kids.
definitely a lot harder and stuff.
Right, and you kids like those video games, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, you like the Pac-Man and was the other one Pong?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
quite family favorites.
Yep.
So.
Family favorites. Yeah, yeah. I've heard about this, and you guys anyway enjoy it. We didn't have video games in my day. You know what we did?
Mud and sticks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Mud and sticks, and we did
Sticks and muds.
yeah. We had a lot of fun with those, and I'm not going to go into detail. But anyway, that's enough of the show. And then today we went and we were out of town getting our blood drawn, and no big monster fights occurred there. But so let's start talking about the best monster fights ever. Some of you might recognize the image that you're looking at now in the middle of the screen. You know what that is, Jack?
Oh, I think that's Godzilla versus King Kong.
Yep. And you see Godzilla shooting Kong right in the fucking nuts.
Right in the nuts, indeed. I was about
Right,
to comment on that.
He's burning his balls. Okay.
Not
That
a
scene
fun
actually with him hitting him in the balls like that was never actually in the movie, but this was one of the promotional posters. This movie is from 1962. Okay. This was the third film Godzilla was ever in. He was still a bad guy at this point. And there's a long story about this that I think I'll get into a little later. After we get some momentum going in this show, I'll tell you exactly how this movie was made. This old one, the 1960, which is really interesting.
Oh yeah.
There's a big backstory to this, and well, why not? I mean, if I hear, well, no, I'm gonna wait because it does take a bit, and we're gonna get to it.
Get that towards the end.
Get towards the end because it's gonna have I'm gonna have to set the scene and go into it like that, and I don't want to start the show bogged down with details. So next thing we're going to do is talk about the upcoming Godzilla versus King Kong from the MonsterVerse. What is it? The legendary MonsterVerse.
Yeah.
Um, I know a lot of people are saying that it's a mismatch. How can Kong possibly beat Godzilla? Well, in this first movie, they had King Kong sort of win the fight. It was more of a draw. Both monsters rolled into the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
and at the end, you see King Kong swimming away. And then in the Japanese version, you see Kong swimming away, and you hear Godzilla roar. There is no alternate Japanese version where Godzilla wins. That does not exist. It was never made. The only thing is different is that piece of audio at the end of the movie where Godzilla roars. So put that out of your mind. You will never find the alternate Japanese version. If you do, I want to see it, and if you show it to me, I will give you my firstborn son sitting right over there. That's how much it's worth to me to see this.
To see an alternate version.
See alternate version. Okay, then here we go. This is the new one they're going to have: Godzilla versus King Kong in the MonsterVerse. Everything I've read, it's going to be an underdog fight. Godzilla is going to have the upper hand. They also say that one creature is going to come out as the definitive winner. Okay.
Okay.
I hope it's probably going. It's going to be Godzilla because they said one will fall. I know he's going to beat Kong. I know he's going to beat the other obvious. They're going to have another monster in there. And Godzilla may die, quote unquote, at the end, saving everybody, but there is going to be a definite winner. And more or less, likely, I can promise you, they're probably going to be fighting. Probably. They're going to be fighting Destroyer from Godzilla versus Destroyer because they set it up in the movie with Kong and Godzilla being attacked by not Kong and Godzilla, King Ghidorah and Godzilla being attacked by the Oxygen Destroyer. Did you see the movie yet?
No, I haven't.
You didn't? I just took you to the movie, didn't I? We
No.
haven't seen this together?
No.
Oh, man. You're a bad kid. Anyway.
We were gonna go, but remember the movie theater
Oh, right,
was
it was
completely
packed.
packed.
Well,
that was one of the bigger monster battles of
the century.
of
We'll
the
rent
century,
it.
yeah.
But yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about from the other movies.
No, yeah.
King Ghidorah and Godzilla were fighting in the middle of the ocean. Godzilla was winning, and then the humans shot the Oxygen Destroyer at him, and it affected Godzilla, but didn't affect Ghidorah. And they talk about it later why it didn't. But so anyway,
Space.
Space. Yeah, Destroyer is going to be in the next movie. If you don't know who Destroyer is, he's one of Godzilla's worst enemies, and he's a creature that he's an aggregate monster. He can pull himself apart and put himself back together, and he's bad news. And in Godzilla versus Destroyer in 1995, we saw Godzilla die in that movie. But anyway, King Kong versus Godzilla, 1962 and 2020. Both are probably going to be some of the most epic monster fights you're ever going to see. So,
Oh yeah, no, definitely. 100%.
It's going to be great.
It's gonna be legendary, honestly.
Legendary, no pun intended. Yeah, because it's by Legendary Studios. Let's look at the next movie, unless anybody's got any comments. Class, do you have any questions about Godzilla versus King Kong? Or King Kong versus Godzilla? Okay. Then we'll move on. Please open your notebooks to the next page. Dracula versus Frankenstein. Look at this poster. This poster, that's pretty damn awesome for a movie from the 60s or 70s, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that definitely is.
I like
good.
that. If I saw
that's-
that-
I think it's where most of the budget went, didn't it?
Yeah, that's where all the budget went. That's good. If I saw this poster, I would want to go see this movie because this looks like the kind of movie I'd want to see. You got a cool looking Dracula. You got a cool looking Frankenstein over here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right.
100% looking like a casual Frankenstein.
Not casual. Looks awesome. I'd be excited to see this. I'd save up some money, get popcorn and shit and all that when I was little. I was like, I want to see this. I want to see, and we finally see Dracula and Frankenstein fight. That's what we want to see.
Yeah.
We want to see him go to war. We want to see him do this thing. Now let me show you what this movie really looked like. Mr. Satan versus the human scrotum. This is Dracula and Frankenstein from that exact movie poster that you just saw, plus some screaming lady there, which is probably the best part of the movie because you get to look at her. But yeah, take a look at this. This is what Dracula versus Frankenstein actually looked like. This movie was from the 70s, and I've watched part of the movie. I didn't watch the entire thing. It wasn't unbearable to watch. I just fell asleep during it. But literally, you've got Dracula and Frankenstein walking around in a disco here and there. I mean, it's exactly like you would think a 70s movie would be, but hey, you've got Dracula and Frankenstein, disco, duck, whatever.
Disco dancing all over the place.
Yeah, just about. But no, this how bad this movie was. I mean, it hasn't got the worst reviews in the world, but it's not good. I would say that. I mean, I don't know if it's worth watching. Check it out. Couldn't hurt. But yeah, classic monster matchup. Dracula versus Frankenstein. And Frankenstein and Dracula have met several other movies. Abbott and Costello versus Frankenstein is one of them. I think that's the main one. That's the only one I can think of. There might be others that were like non-Hammer or non-Universal movies, but I can't. Right now, I'm drawing a blank on any of the classic ones. I'm not just talking about modern TV where they throw all the monsters together anytime they want in shows today. But anyway, Dracula versus Frankenstein. If you got any questions about that, let me know. Personally, in this fight, I'd be rooting for Frankenstein personally.
No, I mean, yeah, he just looks like a complete. I mean, his hair looks like they just got some nice
Yeah, it looks like
construction board
yeah,
and
right. Looks like Kid and Play with an anus face. I don't even. You're too young to even know who that is.
well, I mean, like a Chinese knockoff or something.
It looks bad.
Of
That movie,
Dracula, yeah.
that looks really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. What else? You can keep looking at this if y'all want to, but I'm going to move. I'm going to change the scene. Dracula versus Frankenstein. The promise, the reality. Mr. Satan versus the human scrotum. Now, the next movie.
Mm.
Everybody knows who this is.
Oh yeah.
Freddy versus Jason.
You at least have to see it like 50 times to be considered a human, right?
I think so, yeah. At least
That's in the handbook.
And this is a movie that almost happened several times before it actually happened. They finally worked it out. Now, I don't want to give away any spoilers. The movie is. I don't have any.
Yeah, go watch it. Go on your real, nearest Blockbuster and go in the graveyard and check yourself out a movie.
Have you seen this?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I think this movie might be older than you.
No, it is.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it is. I remember watching it. I don't remember, you weren't born yet, so I don't remember what the hell you were doing. But, it wasn't a bad movie. It wasn't. We got to see Freddy and Jason fight. I mean,
Well,
that alone.
I don't think you went there for the plot. I think you went there
No.
to see them
See-
go.
Share screen time.
Yeah.
And that itself, I think, was enough to make the movie worthwhile. And you could tell everybody involved with it was having a ball.
Yeah, it was not a serious movie in the slightest.
No, and it was.
It didn't have all your itty bitty neckbeard lord like the vase wasn't
Right.
the secret oopie doopie vase wasn't on the counter at the same time that
Right.
other stuff was.
And you might have your
Next
favorite.
scene.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you might have your favorite. I don't know what you say. You might have your favorite between Jason and Freddy. If any of you are sound off who you like, my favorite's Jason. You know why?
Why is that?
Because he's not a pedophile like Freddy is.
Oh,
So if you're a Freddy fan, you are a pedophile. You are a pederast. That means that
causation.
I would like you to
correlation.
type your name into the screen or to the chat. I will record your name and tell the FBI for being a Freddy fan because we know what that means. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
No FBI. Anyway, no. I like Jason. I like Freddy. They're both. I think Freddy's scarier than Jason. Jason's cooler than Freddy, but Freddy's actually scarier. And this is another. I mean, I put this right after Frankenstein versus Dracula for a reason.
Yeah.
Jason can't really help what he is, like
No.
Frankenstein. He can't really. He is. He's a product of. I don't mean that use that cliche. He's a product of his environment. He is a. He was he would have probably been a normal kid if things would have been different, and he wasn't turned into a monster, for lack of a better term.
Well, yeah.
And he's on a homicidal rage, but you don't really. I mean, he's also got these immortal, undying, weird brain. I mean, whatever it is, he is. He's
Apparently, yeah, you can't kill him.
He's a monster. I mean, he's
Yeah.
a tragic monster in a way. He likes killing everybody. Who doesn't?
True.
True, I mean, but by the
FBI.
same token, you can't be too harsh on him. But he's the monster. Now, Freddy is the evil, sinister one. Freddy likes to do harm. Freddy knows better. Freddy likes to hurt people, kind of like Dracula does. Now you're saying, wait a minute, Dracula got bitten. No. Dracula made his choice, and he's evil and sinister, and he preys upon people. And I guess he does it to stay alive, but he had other options. He could go to a blood bank. He could eat pigs or something, suck like the blood out of them. But anyway, I think this is a similar contrast. We have Frankenstein and Dracula, and we have Freddy and Jason. Similar, I don't even know what the corollary, the metaphor is here, but Yeah, that's why I kind of included them. But I mean, when you're talking about classic monster fights,
Hmm.
this has got to be one of them. You think?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, it's especially of this like generation. I mean, this and then last generation. I think this is one of the more prevalent ones
Mm-hmm.
out of all of them. That you could go at anybody on the street and ask, "Do you know this movie?" And they say, "Hell yes, I've watched it 1,000 times."
Right, and
You know,
that's exactly right. You can walk up to anybody in the street, pretty much anywhere in the world. They'll know who Freddy and who
and I
Jason
mean,
are.
like if you wanted to dress up as a Halloween costume for everybody to know who you are, dress up as Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Or dress up as Freddy. Everybody's gonna,
Yeah,
yeah, and it's gonna be a relatively cool costume if you do it well.
it is. It's going to look great.
Yeah.
It's going to look really. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of good Freddys and Jasons, and that reminds me. I was just looking at myself in the camera here, and I want to remind you all how good I look tonight, and usual. So yes, once again, takeaway from here is I am the sexiest man alive and the sexiest man to ever live. Anyway, next, let's talk about the next movie that we got that important thing out of the way. The next movie, I don't even know what it is. I can't remember what I put in here.
Hmm.
You want to take a guess?
I'd be scared too.
Okay, I'd be scared too. Let's see what it is. Okay, Alien versus Predator.
Oh yeah.
Alien versus. We always wanted to classic monster. We always wanted to see Alien versus Predator, didn't we?
Well, I mean, they're both very similar,
Yeah,
concept wise, and why not make them fight? They both enjoy raising hell, and
right. Exactly. And I don't. You were not born when the first.
No, I
No, the
wasn't.
Predator 2 came out. Whenever that happened,
Yeah.
and there was a scene where one of the main characters, I think it was Danny Glover, he ends up in the Predator's starship at the end.
Yeah.
And you see on the wall of the Predator starship, they have an alien skull on the wall. Now, this is years before this movie ever, I mean, 15, 20 years. Everybody lost their mind when you saw the xenomorph skull inside the Predator starship. It was that set the grounds for this. And now, I don't know how many of these we've had. I think at least one. There might have been two of these movies. As you see, in real life, the alien and the Predator are actually pretty good friends.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing that, and you got to admire their work as actors, as
Well, I mean, it's a very dedicated and physical role.
it is
to
very
play
dedicated.
It,
As thespians, yes. I know they commit to the part. You can see them here, talking about their next, the next moves and next things they're going to do. So, it's good. But, Jack, have you seen this one?
No, no, sir.
Okay, now this
We'll watch it tonight.
Watch it tonight. No, we'll watch a different one tonight. This movie's okay. This one's mediocre, and I'll give you a brief synopsis of it. It's basically they find what do you call it? They find the giant pyramid down in the Antarctic. That pyramid's full of aliens, the xenomorphs, and they don't know that. They go down there and they find that which kind of shits on the rest of the alien canon. Okay,
Yeah.
and it kind of pisses on that. And hang on a second, we got somebody being a goofball in the room here. It kind of, the whole part of the thing with one of the things with aliens was it would have been a horrible thing if they ever got down here to Earth and they would have wiped everybody out. Then at the beginning of this movie, you find out the aliens have been on Earth the whole time, living down in an Aztec temple in Antarctica, and they have what do you call it? An adventure group that goes down there to investigate. And when they get down there to investigate, they find, like I said, the temple, and then you also find out that the predators show up there to hunt. It's like one of their rites of passage to go down there and fight the aliens. That's one of the things they do. So that's what the plot of this movie is. And it's okay. I mean, not to sit here and review the plot of every single movie. This one in particular, the sad thing about it is we were all psyched about it, and then when you get it, you got a fairly mediocre movie at that point. And it was, you got two pretty cool characters that had pretty good starts, and I think the battle could have been better, a little more promising, but it, wasn't bad. It's something to do when you're sitting around doing nothing. So let's take a look at the next movie. Godzilla shows up again. Now we've got tons of classic Godzilla fights. Godzilla versus Mothra, Godzilla versus King Kong, Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, Godzilla versus Megalon, Godzilla versus just about everybody, okay?
Oh, yeah, no.
I picked this one. I mean, some of you may or may not know who this creature is.
No, it's probably definitely one of my favorite movies out of all of these.
Yeah,
Besides,
right.
one of them. No, because it's generally, it's a movie you go in and you're like, all the other Godzilla movies you expected, it's a fighting movie. It's not supposed to be scary.
Mm-mm.
That's a big thing about this. You go in and it's generally a creepy ass fucking movie.
That's right.
Um, you could honestly classify as a horror movie in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Watching it as a kid, I didn't understand it was scary. That's what was good about it.
Right.
You had to. It wasn't like it wasn't upfront with it. It wasn't trying to be scary, but it was just because it's a big ass sludge monster that goes around and spreads its sludge everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you got different people melting apart, and
Right.
it's not like your everyday Godzilla goes and hits you with his radiation death beam, you get turned into dust. No, you're gonna go swim around in his sludge for a while,
Right. There's
and you're gonna breathe in all the dangerous
mhm.
danger ass fumes he's putting off. Well, so
Exactly. There is a reason this is probably the darkest Godzilla movie ever made. And Jack mentioned a few of the reasons, and we'll comment on that. First of all, Godzilla fans, this is my favorite one by far. Fight Godzilla movie. Godzilla fans, a lot of them hate this because you see Godzilla fly in this movie. He uses his atomic breath to as a rocket. And they have some goofy stuff in this movie, but this is the darkest. This is the most macabre, yeah, almost scary Godzilla movie there is. First of all, it's not what it appears to be on the surface. Um, this movie, at the very beginning of this movie, Godzilla versus Smog Monster, or Godzilla versus Hydra, a little boy and his dad are at the seashore, and the dad's scuba diving. A smaller version of this thing attacks the dad under the water, and then jumps up out of the water and comes over the boy's head, and he cuts it with a knife. Okay, they have this event right at the beginning of the movie. The next time you see the dad, he's burned to hell. He's got his head bandaged up, and the rest of the movie proceeds as this monster getting bigger and bigger, attacking the Japan, and Godzilla comes to save Japan and all this. Well, one of the when you hear about it, when you watch this movie, you're going to see it. What this movie actually is, according to a lot of people, that boy's father didn't survive. He was killed. That thing killed him in the water. This whole movie is the boy's fantasy about revenge. His dad's still alive. Godzilla, a hero at the time, comes back to kill this thing, to get rid of it. This movie is so bizarre and so full of dream sequences and surrealism that this is very possibly what was intended in this movie, including Godzilla using his atomic ray to fly around and chase Hydra.
because lore-wise and practicality, it doesn't actually make that much more sense.
No, it does make more. Yeah, exactly. It does make more sense. And then also, if this movie was released today, it'd be rated R. Now you're going to look, where the hell would Godzilla versus the Smog Monster be rated R? Now it's something Jack mentioned before. You see children die from being gassed to death right there. They drop dead. You see people burned from, sitting right here alive, burned down to the bones by acid. You see that in this movie. You see other people killed in this movie. Okay, Godzilla and Hydra go to war, fighting each other. They tear each other's eye out. They take turns. One of them tears one eye out, and the other one tears the other one's eye out. Actually, Godzilla tears Hydra's eye out, and then Hydra burns out one of Godzilla's eyes. So you have that going on. Now that's monsters banging around, but this is one of the darker movies. And the other thing that is, it also has to do with the environmental thing. I haven't even mentioned that, how the world's being polluted. And also one of the scarier things about this is the little boy asks, he makes the point of Hydra keeps growing. And he says, is he going to be bigger than Godzilla one day? And they're like, yeah, he is. Godzilla couldn't beat this thing by himself. He needed help. He needed help from the humans. They actually had the humans built a device, and for whatever reason, again, it was a dream. Godzilla figured out how to use it and was able to destroy Hydra. So this is not only a great monster fight, but I think the darkest Godzilla movie made. And I think if you haven't seen it, you need to see it with what I just said in mind. Now, there's going to be debate. No, it wasn't meant to be that or other, but you make up your own mind. This is what I've heard. Again, I say this on every show. I'm not an expert. I'm a fan. Okay, I am a fan more than anything. I'm not an expert. I don't pretend to be an expert. I pretend to be a lot of things. An expert's not one of them.
Hey man, I'm starting to fall asleep. Can I tap out?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
I'll get Jen in here.
Okay. Yeah, when she's ready. All right. Tell her when she's ready to come on in. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep talking. All right. So take your medicine.
Yeah, I will.
Now. Okay. for those of you who are still left, we are going to be, well, so there's lots of left, but young man had to go take care of his things. He was getting tired. But yeah, talking about Godzilla versus Hydra, one of the classic monster fights, or Godzilla versus the Smog Monster. Everybody's heard of that. Godzilla versus the Smog Monster. And I wanted to fill you in about why, not only that it's a recognizable name, but why this movie was, I included it because it's just so dang, it's, so damn creepy when you look at this. I mean, and then when you learn more about it, the creepier it gets. Goes from a silly goofball Saturday morning, poorly done, cartoonish type thing to a very dark movie with a lot of intended undercurrents, I believe. Because, well, we'll get in. I can talk about this movie a lot, and I'm not going to go on and on about it. But let's take a look. Let's take a look at the next battle. Okay. How many of you know who this is? Of course you know who this is. This is Dracula, played by who? Christopher Lee. Now, who is Christopher Lee? You all know Christopher Lee. Every one of you knows Christopher Lee. I don't care how old you are right now. I don't care if you're 10 or 11 years old. If you are, I didn't tell your parents you're watching this because this is a mature channel. Christopher Lee was Count Dooku in Star Wars. He was also Saruman in The Lord of the Rings. But he first came to fame as in James Bond as Mr. Scaramanga, which old Sean Connery movie. But he's also probably his most famously known until modern times as Dracula. He played Dracula, I think, more than anybody. And here is Christopher Lee as Dracula. Now, this is not just a single monster fight. This is a series of movies that goes on now listen, that not only stars Christopher Lee, but we have Peter Cushing. We have Dracula and Von Helsing. Okay, you've heard Von Helsing. You've seen all the different versions of it that are out today, starting with Hugh Jackman and others. And I don't know, lots of people have played him, but this is one of the first realizations of Von Helsing. So what you see here, Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, Count Dooku from Star Wars, Grand Moff Tarkin from Star Wars, together in a franchise they helped make famous. Hammer, I believe it was Hammer Films, Dracula series, the horror of Dracula, and a bunch of the Bride. There's a lot. I'll have to look them up. I don't have the list off the top of my head. I should have reviewed that. But yeah, these two had a lot of the classic Dracula films, and I really recommend them. They're worth watching. They're from the 70s, and they also feature, I don't mean this in a lot of beautiful women, a lot of beautiful sets, a lot of beautiful costuming. I mean, and that rich, deep Technicolor, and there's some black and white, obviously, and then they also did them in color, but this nice, just they don't make, I mean, the way the films look back then are different than the way they look today, and I think it's worth watching, just as, I mean, whether they intended to be art or not, I can't tell you, but this is a case for it. This is a good case for this kind of movie making. You can see here some of the Technicolor scenes. Look at that. Nice. I'm not going to wax on about how great the colors, but you can get an idea how rich it is. That alone is worth watching. And they're good movies. Now you've got to remember, movies were made a little bit different then. They took time getting into the action, and then it spooled up. But they're worth seeing. I mean, especially if you're a horror fan, they're good to turn on and do something. We're used to the jump cuts today. We're used to the pacing that we've all become accustomed to. That's kind of like Sesame Street. So we will. I'm sorry, I'm having a technical issue here. Hang on a second. There we go. Technical issue avoided. So anyway, here we are. We have Dracula and Van Helsing. Van Helsing. That's what it is. Van Helsing. In the same vein, here's another universal picture. Okay, some of you may or may not know who this is. Obviously, you know who Frankenstein is. Now you're saying, that's not Frankenstein. That's Frankenstein's monster. No, his name's Frankenstein. His father was Victor Frankenstein, or they call him Henry in the movie, I think. And so if your dad's name is Frankenstein, last name is Frankenstein, your last name is Frankenstein. It's just that simple. So there you go. We got Frankenstein there. We've got Lon Chaney Jr. standing next to him, and that's the man that played the Wolfman for so many times, so many years for Universal. Okay, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman in this movie. Basically, it's got something really interesting about it. You can see there, that's Bela Lugosi. Not, we know him as Dracula. That's Bela Lugosi playing Frankenstein, and they don't tell you this. It doesn't. This isn't mentioned in the movie, but in this movie, the monster was supposed to be blind, and Bela Lugosi played the role as a blind as if the monster was blind. But they don't mention that anywhere in the dialogue because they didn't want that in there. But the movie had already been filmed. So, I mean, by that point they had gotten so far into production they couldn't change it. So you see him acting that way. You see him acting as if he's blind, and then there's the Wolfman there, and they kind of team up at first to try to help each other. Well, Lon Chaney's trying to get I can't remember the exact plot, but it's been a while since I've seen it. That's not what we're here to talk about the plot of. We're talking about the battle at the end, which is pretty cool. They fight in an old castle, and the castle's getting destroyed by the water as it's crumbling around them as the Wolfman and Frankenstein go to blows. But Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. Classic, awesome, iconic fight. We talk about all these old Universal monsters. The big five. You got Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, the Mummy, and the creature from the Black Lagoon. Anytime you can get any of those guys mixing it up, you're going to have a good time. So, Frankenstein versus the Wolfman. If you got any questions, let me know, class. We can continue and raise your hands or see me after class. I'll let you know when my office hours are. Let's take a look at the next one. You probably don't even recognize what this is. This is from the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, and this was a fantastic fight. You even see this mentioned a lot of times if you look up these lists. I don't go by the lists that you read on the internet. I pick my own stuff, and you're going to see why in a minute. But this is a stop-motion genius. His name was Ray Harryhausen. He was the king of stop motion, and I think you guys know what that is. This is from the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, where the Cyclops fights this dragon near the end of the movie. Classic battle. They go back and forth. I'm not going to tell you who wins. You got to watch it. You got to go watch the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad and see who wins this fight. But it's a very good fight, and you'll also see just how great Ray Harryhausen was as an animator. Not only did he make the creatures do the cool stuff, but look at them. They've got gestures. The Cyclops is reacting. He's got gestures. And even when they're not fighting, the Cyclops would walk around and like scratch his butt and, has all these cool little living characteristics that Ray Harryhausen would add into these things that made it really sold it. It could be really scary, but part of that is because you feel like these guys are real characters. So you got to see this movie, not Frankenstein, Cyclops versus the damn dragon there, and it's a good fight. It's an exceptionally good movie, and it's one of the best, I think, fantasy. If you're into, most people out here are into fantasy role playing games now, but this one is right up the alley. This would be right up a pirate movie practically. With some of those kind of probably perfectly along the lines of like Assassin's Creed. I've never played it. Jack could tell you what if that was like, but this is worth seeing. Cyclops and the Dragon. Now let's take a look. Let's take a look at what we've got next. Hang on a minute. I am having a little bit of a technical issue tonight. I blame myself. And anyway, here we go. We will take a look at the next one. Oh, okay. Once again, the aliens make an appearance. And this was a very, everybody remembers this fight. And this is another, I include it because it's iconic. You talk about somebody fighting a monster. This kind of stuff occurring in a movie. This fight with Ripley and the alien. The battle itself was cool. We all remember it. If you've seen the movie, it's rough. They're fighting in the hangar deck, and Ripley finally blows the alien queen out of the airlock. Now, if you haven't seen the movie, forgive me. I think it's 20-something years old, so I'm spoiler alert. And just a second, give me okay, yeah. So we have Ripley versus the alien. I don't know what else to say about it. It's got the famous line, "Get away from her, you bitch." So that's a good line. That's a great line, and we got that from this movie. So let's take a look at our next entry. There's a lot of them in here, and if there's something I forgot, you let me know. Now you don't have to just let me. If you're not in here tonight, or you're afraid to talk, whatever, you can also send me a message, and we can talk about it on another show. We won't have to do this whole show again, but we can bring it up. Gives us plenty of content, plenty of things to talk about. And if you say, hey, I want to see this other I want to see this movie, or I'd like to see this movie mention. I think this is a great fight. Tell me why, or just say it. You don't have to tell me anything. Just say I want to. Why didn't you talk about that one? And I'll tell you why I didn't talk about that one, or I'll tell you that I forgot it. So, which is rare. Gandalf versus the Balrog. We talked about Christopher Lee earlier. He played in the Lord of the Rings. He played Saruman the White, and Ian McKellen was Gandalf the Grey. And this is one of the, I call it a monster fight, because neither Gandalf or this thing were human. Okay, Gandalf was a demigod, and so was the Balrog, and they were both about the same power. And you all remember the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, go watch it. This is in the first movie, Fellowship of the Ring, about halfway through, and they run into this creature down into some dwarven mines. And Gandalf and this thing go to war. I mean, well, the Fellowship of the Ring runs out. Gandalf confronts this thing on the bridge. On this bridge, and they start their battle on the bridge and then fall, supposedly both of them, to their deaths. But not only in movie history is this one of the iconic monster fights, but in literature too. When I was growing up, before there was ever a Lord of the Rings movie, even before the animated Lord of the Rings movies in the 70s, you'd read this. I remember the first time I read about this, and I was just in shock. I went to school. My friends we were all reading it at different points, and I remember telling some of them that had gotten close. I said, "You're not going to believe what happened." I didn't spoil it for them, but this blew my mind. And the description of the Balrog wasn't very. I mean, I shouldn't say it's clear. It was interesting. I mean, he doesn't. Tolkien will in the books. He will describe a flower field for 20 minutes. But then it comes to some character, he'll give him 2 lines of description. And this, they said he was a creature of shadow and flame, and then his shadow stretched out like wings. That's the only description we get of the Balrog in the books. But it's a pretty frightening thing. And the reason it's not only one of the iconic fights in literature and in movies, but we get the famous line, "You shall not pass," which everybody loves. Before, with Ripley, it was, "Get away from her, you bitch." And now it's, "You shall not pass." So, great fights have great lines. Stick in your brain. Excuse me. I've got that. I'm dying here. If I fall over dead on the stream, what I want you guys to do is just jump into the chat and start talking about how dead I am. That would do me a huge favor. So I got to do something before I screw it up. There we go. Okay. What do we got next? What is next on the docket? Okay, great monster fights. Do any of you know who this is? Of course you do. It's Brad Pitt. Do you know what movie it's from? Interview with a Vampire. Now, I know some of you monster horror fans right now are shitting yourselves. You're thinking, how on earth can he include this? Blah, blah, blah. Why is this? That movie I hated it, or I loved it. This is one of the few times, and here's why I included this movie, in this fight in particular. It's one of the first times we got to see vampires fight each other, okay? You actually see some of this starting in the movie, vampires pushing each other around and fighting and laugh. I mean, one vampire will attack another and the other one will laugh it off because he's the one doing the attacking isn't as powerful. But here we get to see vampires fight it out. Brad Pitt kills, and if you haven't seen the movie, I'm going to spoil it for you, so I don't know. It's an ancient movie. Brad Pitt takes revenge. I guess him and his... what is it? Yeah, Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, Louis and Lestat, I guess they go to... No, they didn't. Lestat wasn't there. Brad Pitt and Kristen Dunst. And Kristen Dunst is a little girl in real life at this time. They go to France, I think, and they run into this circus of actual vampires. And the circus of actual vampires have a community. And long story short, they find out that the little girl, Kristen Dunst, killed... Louis, or thought she killed Louis and got rid of him. So in their, because she killed Louis, in their I don't know what you call it, in their ethics and their society and their laws, they had their one law: vampires shouldn't kill each other. She did that, so they killed her. They burned her to death with the sunlight. Um, Brad Pitt she'd been like Brad Pitt's kid and companion, traveling companion, because the kids don't age after they get bit; they stay the same age, just like he did. So then, since they killed her, he went a little nuts. He set the place on fire, and he started cutting them up with that scythe. You can't see the blade on it, but it's one of those crop harvesting scythe things, and he pretty much wipes out a ton of these vampires and puts them down. So we get to see vampire versus vampire in this one, and I, I think it's a great monster fight, and I think it's worth mentioning because it's one of the first times we ever see that. Now, I don't know in some of the Buffys and the movies from going, I haven't seen every single vampire movie, but I'm sure vampires have fought since then, and I can't think of an earlier case. I'm sure there is one, so you guys are gonna have to let me know when you got two. You got vampires fighting each other. You might see them maybe fighting some other creature. And I was trying to think about that, trying to find some of the other creatures that had fought, and I haven't come up with too many yet. But now let's go. Okay, anyway, Interview with a Vampire. Brad Pitt, I think his name was Louis. His name was Louis. Wipes out the Circus of the Vampires, or the Circus of the Damned. I think it belongs on the list. This one, okay, if you guys know who this is, you get extra points, or who these things are. And this is Gyra and Sanda. They are the Gargantuas. This movie was called War of the Gargantuas. Now, what's interesting about this is if you see the guy, I think it's going to be on the right of your screen, the green guy, the actor in that suit, is the same man that plays Godzilla, Haru Nakajima, in the original movies. The other actor is obviously a different person, and I can't remember his name. This movie was really good. Lots of good monster fighting in it. Long story short, the green guy is the bad guy, the brownish yellow guy is the good guy, and they fight it out. One of them's trying to protect humans, the other one's trying to kill humans, but they're ultimately, the two of them are like brothers. They're cloned. Actually, they're cloned. This is, believe it or not, from an earlier movie called Frankenstein Conquers the World, where we see the Japanese version of Frankenstein, who of course is a giant, fighting another monster. And these two things, they believe, came to life from his cells, and they made this movie War of the Gargantuas. Good movie. I wanted to see this so bad when I was a kid, and I never got to see it. I mean, I'd miss it. I constantly missed it. It would be in the theaters. I didn't get to go. And this is starting when I was like 10. I didn't get to see this movie till probably 15 years. I mean, aging myself till quite after, not too long ago, I'll say. I finally got to see it. I watched it a few times. I really liked it, and I heard the good stuff about it. It's a very good monster movie. The only thing that's a little weird are the faces on these things, but other than that, the movie works, and it works well. And it's if you like Japanese movies, horror, monster movies, if you like kaiju fights, if you like any of that, which we all do now, watch this thing and enjoy the old style filmmaking. It's really cool. It's all pseudomation. You got to give these guys credit. Most of these guys, these stuntmen, were into judo and all this other stuff. So some of these moves you see them throwing on each other were pretty damn cool. So let's take a look and get through our list, and then we're going to take a break and come back on that. I got a message here from somebody. Hang on a second. Let me see what I say here. Okay. Oh, okay. I'll be taking a break shortly. Let's see what we've got. Next one here. The Cenobites. You know what? We're going to talk about the Cenobites here in a little bit. It's almost up to break time. We are going 45 minutes, but it's not just the old movies we're talking about. We're going to talk about the new movies as well. And one of my favorite fights, that monster battles I saw, is when this guy, a new Cenobite. Well, first of all, let me back this up. What are the Cenobites? They're from Hellraiser. If you guys have ever seen Hellraiser, that's what this is from, Hellraiser 2. And we're going to talk about this fight in Hellraiser 2, where the demons fought each other. And I'll tell you why and how, and we'll go into detail a little bit about that. But anyway, I'm going to take a break here for a minute. Stretch my legs, go have another kind of monster fight here in a second. and we will be right back. So let me um, tell you what. So far, we appreciate you being here. We're going to slide this up, and you know what? We'll be right back after these messages.
too, buddy. We'll be done in just a little bit.
How's my?
We'll see here in just a
I'll
second.
have to put it back up and share it again.
Let me do that. I'll just put that you're on.
Hello.
Okay. Alrighty. Alright, here we go. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And joining us is the lovely and talented Miss Wrangler, Ms. Dynamite. And we're going to be talking about a few more monster fights here. Now, I got a question when we were offline here, when I spit out the term Cenobite, and let me tell you what those are. They're from Hellraiser. You remember Pinhead? He's the Cenobite. His buddy's the Chatterer guy, the Chatterer, the guy with the big fat guy with the tongue, the girl with her throat pulled open. They're all what they call Cenobites in the Hellraiser movie. There's all kinds of different terms in there. If you guys are Hellraiser fans, you know these. But that puzzle box, they always call it the puzzle box. That thing's actually called the Lament configuration. That's a geeky horror guy thing. So anyway, one of the best battles I ever saw was in Hellraiser 2. As far as I don't know if it was a great battle, but it was an interesting battle. So we get to see these things fight each other. So many times you see on these smaller monsters, the movies just kind of focus on, one monster killing people or whatever, or a group of monsters killing people, like zombies or whatnot. This is one of the newer. They had the regular Cenobites you saw in Hellraiser. Then a guy got a hold of one of the puzzle boxes and turned himself into a Cenobite, and this is him. And he was a very powerful one, and he went to fight the other Cenobites. And if you guys saw the movie, basically they had this autistic girl. She got a hold of the puzzle box, and she solved it. Now, that, of course, calls the demons, like you know in the movie, and these things come after her, and they start, doing their thing. They're going to get her. But Pinhead stands up for her and says, her hands can't summon us because she didn't have any of the, I don't know what you call it. She wasn't trying to get after lust or pleasure or something evil. She was just an autistic kid who solved puzzles. So, I don't know. It was a little cringy, but also kind of interesting. This thing wanted her anyway, so the Cenobites started fighting with her, and I think the girl's name was Christy, were able to get away. Do you remember this one, hun?
Oh yeah.
Oh, also, say hi, Jen.
Hello guys, how are y'all doing?
Yeah, and Jen and I had to go down to the doctor today. And also, let me say, if you haven't done it already, follow the channel. Go ahead and hit that follow button that's up there. We'd appreciate it. I've only got 9 more days to reach my goal of 100 people following.
Child,
If not,
please.
I've committed.
I'd follow you anywhere.
Thank you, baby. I have committed to going into exile for the rest of my life, or for a few minutes until I stream again if we don't get that goal. But anyway, hit that follow button, and if you're watching this offline or whatever, watching the recorded video, you can also follow. So do it. That'd be great. I think you're going to enjoy the show because we got tons more stuff to go. We'll be talking about all kinds of things, and pretty soon I'll be doing another horror art tutorial, which will take a little bit more time. I shouldn't say more time. Be better than the last one I did. Now that I'm getting a handle on how to do this, but I'll do digital art. I'll show you how to do that with the digital pad. And also, what's good about that, I'm showing you how to do it without any really big cost. The pad I got was a less expensive one, and I use a piece of freeware to do the art with, and you can make some really great looking stuff with it. So that's what we're going to do at one of these shows pretty soon. And, if you got questions, let me know when you'd like to see something like that. Again, you can message me, and I'll respond to you offline. And if that's what it takes, I'll respond to you here. So anyway, the Hellraiser, the Cenobites versus the Cenobite. And when I go around to schools talking about monsters and all that kind of stuff, I always ask the kid, who's your favorite demon from Hellraiser? And they all have their different choices. Some little kids like Pinhead,
Mhm.
especially the
He always
kindergartners. They
scared
really
me.
like Pinhead. So, and I show them slides from the movies, and they enjoy it, and it's a nice time for all, don't you think?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So
How you doing over there?
I'm doing okay over there.
Did you share your things?
Yes, I did. We gotta go over here. I didn't. We didn't have time to reshare them. I retitled the thing so people know you're here.
Mm.
I'm gonna have to show you how to do the sharing so
Yeah, if I could do the sharing.
we could do that.
I have my phone in the other room. I didn't bring it.
Oh, you're fine. That's quite okay. But I've got a little bit of a neck issue here. I think I'm about to have.
Where I knocked you out,
That's
baby.
right. I just messed up and got knocked out. So, all right, check it out. Hellraiser 2. The demons fight each other, and it's also a good movie. I've seen all the Hellraisers. They're my Christmas tradition. Nothing.
I'm part of your Hellraiser now.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Jen could do
I'm the Hellraiser monster.
You pull the little box out, and Jen comes and starts giving you hell.
Yep.
What the hell you think
You
you're
like torture? I'll give it to you.
Oh man. Okay. So let's go on to our next fight.
Let's go get a fight.
King Kong.
King Kong ain't got shit on me,
Now,
bitch.
this is the original 1933
Oh yeah.
King Kong, and we saw King Kong fight a T-Rex. Why was this important? You hear it. It was they redid this in the Peter Jackson movie, and this is actually one of the first kind of like big monster fights we got
They
to
look
see.
like they're hanging out, saying, "Hey,
No, he's like, dude.
you got any spare mayonnaise?
Yeah, man, how you been? That's like they're talking, but no,
Yo, give me skin."
they fought. I don't remember why they fought, just other than that's what they do. Monsters do that. So this is one of the. I included. A lot of you probably haven't seen it. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it was one of the very first types we saw. Two giant monsters go to war like this, 1933, and again, stop motion animation. And about the original King Kong movie. Everybody would watch this. I mean, you literally could show that movie to probably, young kids, and they're not going to be fazed by it. When King Kong first came out in 1933, people were actually fainting in the aisles and stuff, and terrified of what they were
Child.
seeing. Then you move up to the 70s, and you see not King Kong, but The Exorcist. People were fainting in the Exorcist aisles and that kind of thing. So it's all perspective as these movies evolve. And I don't know if anybody's really gotten scared by any particular movies nowadays. I've heard of some like. People, I'm trying to mention like, not The Nun. Maybe that was one of them. But there's plenty of good ones that I've heard people say they got scared of. Fragile and Insidious. I hear mentioned a lot. Scared a lot
Yeah.
of people.
Fragile was with
Sarah Michelle Gellar. Yeah, was there no kidding? It scared me. I mean, I actually had a scene in there that freaked me out where this kid's laying in bed. I think it was his foot or his hand just started crumpling up, and the kid was laying there screaming as the ghost or the whatever smashed his foot right there in front of everybody. In the middle of the night, and she's sitting there watching his foot. And so that was pretty creepy. So there's still stuff that scares us. It just kind of depends on what era it is. And I talked about that before in one of the other shows, but we're not going to get into that. But this is a classic monster fight: King Kong versus that T-Rex. Now,
T-Rex.
the next fight we're going to look at here. This King Kong on top of the Empire State Building.
Hell yeah.
Everybody knows this image. Everybody's heard of this. This is,
He's
again,
just trying to play with the airplane, that's all.
trying to play with it. Yeah, probably thinks he's going to get it for Christmas. But poor King Kong. He climbed to the top of the Empire State Building. He set Fay Ray down so she wouldn't get hurt. And these biplanes came by. You know how they shot him up.
They hurt him.
Yeah, they killed him. They didn't just hurt
That's
him.
not right.
They killed
I
him.
love King Kong like I love Donkey Kong.
Like Donkey Kong. Well, it's
I love him like Donkey Kong, baby.
like, yes, you do. Okay. A horrible thing to say. Anyway, you're a horrible human being. Anyway.
I am. I love it.
Okay, King Kong fights the airplanes, and hey, movie history right there, monster history. Horror. It's a monster movie now. In 1933, it was a monster movie and a horror movie. Scared the hell out of people, and that's
Because they didn't get out much.
they didn't get out much.
They only watch shit in black and white.
They only did. Yep. They didn't have color, and you didn't have TV back then either. You had to
Thank
go.
God we have
You had
TV.
to go to the cinema and plan your evening, and you had to dress up, and you would go to the cinema dressed well, and you would watch King Kong or whatever, Casablanca, or what.
Casablanca was good.
It was a good movie. There's no monsters in Casablanca, so it automatically loses a few points. But you know, there you go. Now, our next person we're going to mention,
I forgot to tell you. Have you ever seen Frailty?
Frailty. I think we watched that. What was it about?
It was about a father telling his kids that uh, he he was a vessel of God to go after the demons and kill them and people.
Yes. Wasn't that
Matthew McConaughey and
Matthew McConaughey? Was Bill Paxton in there?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Yeah. That's I remember
that was in a top-notch movie.
That was a top notch. Yeah, because he was killing those people that he thought were demons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's okay if there are demons. You
Yeah,
know?
if they are demons, you can kill them. But I mean,
Yeah, but they weren't.
they
It's
weren't
like,
demons. He was
The
nuts.
poor kid was like tortured to see the demons.
That's right. They were. That was a good. Yeah, I remember Frailty. That was now that you mention it,
We'll have to
I
get
have seen it. Yeah, and I
make
gotta.
Jack watch it so he can pee to bed at night.
Yep. Sometimes we get too. I see so many of these things. Sometimes I forget them, even though they're like, oh yeah, I love that one. I just forget the title, And it's been a while since I've seen it, and I remember really enjoying it when I saw it. So,
It made me
but
feel good all inside. That there is a good world out there
there's a good world out there. There's also a world
that we live in.
in a
Good
world-
imagination of death and mayhem.
in a world where
There's death,
and
demons,
destruction.
and
We
dullness.
bring you more death and destruction. Okay, now we're going to move on, and it's important for me to properly introduce the next slide.
What
The
slide
next
is
thing.
that?
You're gonna
Bop,
see,
bop.
bop, bop. You're going to see the next slide.
I don't want to know you're sliding.
This is the best monster fighter to ever live. Nobody's killed more
He
monsters.
better
than
not
this
be
guy.
corny.
He ain't corny.
He better not even be.
You're
even,
going to see the man himself.
He better not even.
I want you to take a look at that right
I'm
there.
gonna look at that shit.
Hail to the
Oh,
king, baby.
hey King Daddy-O.
Ash. Ash, the man
Ash.
himself. Nobody kills a monster like Ash.
Yeah, that's true. But
What?
if Jason or any of those pederasses like Freddy
Mm-hmm.
came after him, it'd be hard.
He'd kill him?
He might kill him, but it might take a few days.
Right. Well, you know how he is. He always struggles with him, but he always ends up winning. You know,
He's
you
got his
mentioned
boom handle.
it's really cool that you mentioned Frailty about this, because whenever we tried to do the show before and it went south, technical problems.
Yeah, that was weird.
We didn't have
too.
any audio. I mentioned something about the Evil Dead and as a joke, and then you mentioned Frailty. I said, where did no, I actually wrote this on a forum. I didn't say it on the show. I like talking about Evil Dead. I said, oh yeah. I said that it's basically the entire Evil Dead movies are about the Necronomicon getting a hold of Ash's brain, and Ash going crazy and killing all these people he thinks are Deadites, but they're not.
Oh,
Ash is
they're
just going
real
around
people.
murdering innocent people he thinks are Deadites because
That's a good-
the Necronomicon got in his head. That was my fan theory.
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
good
So
theory.
we see Ash with his boomstick killing all kinds of innocent people.
That's
that-
very shameful. But it would happen. You know what I
Could.
mean?
I mean, it's possible. I mean, you look at the power of that thing. I mean, it could be.
Look at his eyes. He's evil. Evil Dead.
He's evil. He's the man.
God, he is the man.
Now let's look at him.
What about Brad Pitt? I missed that one.
You did miss the Brad Pitt one. We'll go.
Oh, let's go back to that
You
one.
want to go back to talk about Brad Pitt, or you just
Yeah.
want to look at Brad Pitt?
I just want to look at Brad Pitt
Okay, we'll go back and look at Brad Pitt. Hang on a
because
second.
he is, I like Ash, but he's not that easy on the eyes.
Well,
Brad, oh,
there's Brad Pitt. You just want to
now
stare.
see, look at that.
Can we have a moment of silence where Mrs. Wrangler stares at Brad Pitt?
Doo-doo-doo-doo.
You know, I am the sexiest man alive.
You
Not only
are
that,
sexy.
but I am the sexiest man to ever live. Brad Pitt comes a close second, I think.
Yeah, he does.
Pretty close. Now,
I'm
not,
thinking
not quite, but he's almost there.
he just has that look about him,
Yeah. That,
and what pissed me off is how Angel Joe. I know this ain't a gossip channel, but that bit he was dumb as dirt. He had a good girl, and he knows he fucked up. So
Yep.
now he's like wagging his tail between his legs.
that's right.
But we all love him, you know.
Yeah, they needed the guy from Kids in the Hall not Kids in the Hall. Whitest Kids You Know, Abraham Lincoln, to follow him on. You fucked up. Now you have fucked up.
Yeah, he
You have fucked up now.
He literally, but
Yeah.
it's all good.
No, it's all
He's gonna come back with a vengeance.
Yeah. He is. He's a great
Oh,
actor.
look at that.
Which one?
The two friends going
Oh, the yeah, Cyrus Gyra
on
and Sen.
Sesame Street.
Yeah, the War of the Gargantuas. We've seen that.
Yeah,
That's a good movie. Well, I can go into more detail about that later.
they
They've
look
even this
good.
is actually a classic. They've actually I saw a Scooby Doo cartoon a couple of years back, and they actually spoofed this entire movie, which was really cool. I mean, what?
That's weird because I love Scooby Doo.
Yeah, they did tribute to this movie, which was pretty cool. As you can see, Jen's got a touch of the vapors. All right, we looked at Ash. Now, I mentioned this, I teased this a little bit earlier, and I could go into a detail about so many of these movies, but there is one movie I want to talk about again, and I told you I'd tell you the backstory of this movie, and I'm getting ready to, and that's this movie, and I'm going to keep my word, Godzilla vs. King Kong, the original one in 1962. Let me tell you how this was.
Hell yeah!
Let me tell you, you can look this up because it's the truth. This movie was originally going to be called King Kong versus Prometheus, and it was going to be a sequel to the 1933 King Kong. Okay, and the guy that had the rights, I think his name was Willis O'Brien. I might get the name wrong, but he had the rights to the movie, and he couldn't get a studio in America to make the movie. And here's what the plot of the movie was going to be: that King Kong from the 33 movie, when he fell off the Empire State Building, he didn't die. They were able to save him somewhat, and they were keeping him alive in a university lab, not just a lab, but I mean a big area like a stadium in a university, and studying him. And in the process of this, they were building their own monster using what they learned from Kong. And this thing was called, they're going to call it Prometheus or whatever. Or one of the working titles was the Ginkgo, which was a play on the words King Kong. This thing was made out of rhino parts and elephant parts and all this kind of thing. And they were going to reconstruct this creature and see what they could do. Long story short, you can guess what happens. Kong wakes up and gets away. This monster gets up and gets away. And Kong and the monster fight it out, and the ending scene was going to be the two monsters fighting it out to the death on the Golden Gate Bridge, where they probably were both going to fall into the water and pass away. But that was the original plot of this movie. He couldn't get it made in America, so he went to Japan. They'd made giant monster movies. And Japan agreed to do it with him. The Toho Studios, the people that make Godzilla. And they said, hey, we have an idea. Instead of making it King Kong versus Prometheus or this other thing, how about we use Godzilla, our monster Godzilla? And he's like, well, that's not a bad idea because, hey, Godzilla's a big name, King Kong's a big name, we can match them up. Well, he just assumed they were going to use stop motion animation, which was considered much classier then, and not the suitimation. Well, they had the rights, they made the movie, he was furious, he hated it, and not only that, but we see King Kong versus Godzilla as a dopey Godzilla movie or a great Godzilla movie, whatever you want to call it, your standard Godzilla movie back then. But it actually, in the Japanese version, which is the same as the American version, in the Japanese dub or whatever, this was supposed to be a parody movie, a parody of giant monster movies, and they were going to kind of, like so many times, they were going to kind of put a cork in their part of the genre, but the movie was wildly successful. But yeah, Godzilla versus King Kong was actually a parody of monster movies. And that's how this movie got made. And maybe one of these days we can go through and look at the slides and talk about it some more of, so you can see some of the production drawings and things like that. But that's how this movie got made. It was originally supposed to be something totally different and ended up like that. So what's your thoughts on that?
I like it. I was trying to share it,
Oh,
but it won't work. So
that's okay. But that's another famous
I
monster.
love this.
What's
They look like, hey,
Hey.
come give me a hug. Come give us a hug.
Yeah,
They got a cigar in one hand, smoking.
That's interesting. Is so many of these monsters you're saying, okay, look at this. They're like glad to see each other.
And they're like making fun of each other, like he's trying to burn his nutsack,
He is trying
with
to
the
burn his
rage.
nuts. I wonder. I mean, you look at that. I wonder if they even. I mean, this isn't. That is actually. I said it before. This is not a scene from the movie. This is a composite, a photo composite, and they drew in. They drew in Godzilla's breath and all that. Why they decided to make it a nut burner, I don't even know. But
To make a joke, they probably did
well,
that
yeah,
on
you know
purpose.
what? That's really good because this was supposed to be a parody. That's probably exactly why they did that.
They're like, oh, what the hell? You got my
Uh huh.
nuts.
This movie was supposed to be a parody, and it was
And
a
he's got a
parody.
grin on his face, like, yeah, motherfucker, now give me that
Right, and it was
cigar.
wildly successful in Japan. I mean, probably because of those reasons. But hey, it's worth seeing. It's a really good movie. I like. I mean, I like.
They don't look angry. They look like they're friends.
Well, they neither of them were really that angry. They just jerks. Well, Godzilla.
He's got his fist out, like, come on, come on.
Yeah, the plot was Godzilla was tearing up
He's
Japan.
like, you might walk over, but you're gonna limp
Yeah,
back.
and they had brought Kong back, and they figured, well, we get rid of both of them by dropping Kong on in front of Godzilla, and they did that, and so the two started fighting. But anyway,
Child,
yeah, that's
how dare they?
how dare they? Shame on them. So was that your favorite Godzilla movie?
Yes, it was.
No.
Yes, it was. No, the one where the kid got his ass kicked
Oh
every
my
day.
God, yeah.
Talk about they hit the kid more than they even hit Godzilla. What the?
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Talk about child abuse.
That was a great monster fight. Godzilla versus Megalon. And I've watched it a lot of times, and the first part of the movie kind of was slow and boring, and I shouldn't say that. It was slower than... And then Jen and I were watching it, and she pointed something out. She was laughing her ass off. I'm like, what? She goes, they're beating the shit out of this little kid. There's a little kid who's part of the main team of humans in this movie. There's two men in their 20s or 30s, and then the little boy, he's 8 or 9. And they keep running into the bad guys, who are adults too. And the bad guys are kicking the shit out of this kid. They beat him up, they tie him up, they throw him around.
I'd love to see that
Every 10
shit.
minutes, this kid's getting his ass whooped by these adults.
I would have been right there going, yeah,
You would.
holding that kid down, get that kick.
The kid wasn't even a jerk. He was a nice little kid.
I know, but it didn't matter. It was funny.
Yeah, so if you want to, watch Godzilla versus Megalon. The first half is this poor kid getting his ass whooped. The second half is the cool ass monster fight where Godzilla and Jaguar fight Megalon and Gigan.
And I think they were trying to make it funny. That I just couldn't believe it. I was just like,
Well, there's a lot of humor in the movies, and it's supposed to be because they were kids' movies.
but I mean, it was just like,
It was brutal.
Yeah.
So you pointed it out. I just didn't register. I mean, but it's check it
I'm
out.
like,
We
now
don't have
that's
to
how
slide-
you beat a kid right there.
Yeah, Godzilla's. Yeah, you beat him like a
Little
man.
stepchild.
Right.
I know.
It makes that movie. The whole movie is when you see that you can enjoy that part of it and enjoy that. It makes it a pretty damn good movie to watch.
Man, I wish they had it at the movies. I'd get some popcorn, some Raisinets, big ass Coke.
That would be
Not,
good.
yeah.
They should have. Well, eventually they might show it on the screens once in a while. But no, it goes. I saw it in the theaters. It was really cool. I saw it first on TV, and we'll get off. John Belushi actually hosted it on TV. He had a goofy Godzilla costume, and he'd cut away to John Belushi every
Oh, I love
commercial
John Belushi.
break, and he would cut up on the movie, and it was pretty cool. So anyway, these are the main monster fights we've covered tonight, and
I like me some monsters. I'd fight a few of them. King Kong would be my buddy, though.
Well, King Kong's sympathetic. Well, so is Godzilla, but I mean, that's the problem is they're going to have two good guys in the next Godzilla versus King Kong face off again. You know what I mean? Godzilla's a hero. He saved the world twice in these movies. And then they have Kong, who was a hero who saved it. He saved Skull Island and stomped out the skull
He's saying,
crawlers.
bitch, King Kong ain't got shit on me.
That's a different movie.
You don't know about my
You don't know.
fighting, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, oh man. But anyway, that's been
That's silly.
it's been fun to to talk about some of these, and this is our review here: Dracula versus Frankenstein, or Mr. Satan versus the Humans.
Looks like a
Freddy and Jason.
sponge or
Yeah.
really bad case of.
Jason versus SpongeBob.
Oh yeah, look at this.
Jason and Freddy. That was and then Alien and Predator. Anyway, we reviewed all of these movies. And like I said, if the class has any questions, feel free to message
Feel
me.
free to
Either message me here or offline on my email, or actually leave a
go
message.
to
What?
KISSASS my ass.
No, we're really glad to have you here. But go ahead and hit follow. We got lots of these shows coming, and soon I'm going to be doing some more.
We're on Facebook, child.
We are on Facebook. We'll be doing some more monster tutorials. Not monster tutorials.
And if you have any suggestions
yeah. If you have any suggestions, things you want to see
or talk
or
about,
talk about, let me know. We'll put a show together for it. And like I said before, I'll also be doing more monster art tutorials. I've got a degree in medical.
oh, I like that one right there.
I've got a degree in medical illustration, and I draw monsters, and I draw all kinds of things. And I will draw them on a digital tablet and show you how to do it, and I'll show you how to do it without breaking the bank. You can do it. You can get into this digital art fairly inexpensively, and there's good quality products. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, you had to put a lot of money into it. You don't have to
Yes,
no more.
sir, Daddy-O.
Don't have to anymore. But yeah, so if you guys want to have any suggestions, as Jen said,
Please, leave us a message anywhere.
yeah. Is there anything?
There's Brad Pitt again.
Brad Pitt again. Should I just leave it on Brad Pitt? So
Yeah,
nope.
just-
There's
Oh, hell no.
yeah, Guy Ritchie, but the
I love that too, though.
yeah. Look at their lips. Why did they faint?
They've been smooching each
I
other,
guess in the
doing all kinds of good stuff.
Well, anyway, there's other some friends, other types of monster fights. Like who would win a fight between a silverback gorilla and a bear? Those are monsters, but that comes up. Or how many, a pit bull versus a bear. Once that pit bull locked his jaws on, it's all over. Anyway, this is some of the best things here. But anyway, we really do appreciate y'all coming by tonight. It has been fun for me and the whole family.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there, and if, like I said, you have suggestions, shoot me a line. Follow the channel. Whether you're watching now or you're watching I don't call it a rerun, you're watching the recorded thing. I guess the rerun's something different on Twitch. But is there anything you'd like to add, hon?
Have a great day.
No, it's a great night. But
See you again.
we'll see you again soon. And
What's your favorite song that you had put on?
I don't know how to do that yet. If anybody can help me, I've been trying to play. I write good songs and I record
Right.
them. And you judge for yourself. I haven't been able to play.
I'll judge you like a fucking riot.
Okay. Talk about Hellraiser. Anyway.
Hellraiser here.
Yep. I don't know how to play my own stuff through the Twitch yet, and I have been trying. And
I'm gonna have to show you a few things.
You have to show me a few. I've been messing it up bad. So we'll figure it out eventually. I know that you can hook up Spotify and some other stuff. Don't want to do that. I got specific things.
You got some stuff back here, like some duct tape.
I got a lot.
Some Velcro.
We got duct tape.
I got some super glue.
We got all kinds of. I'm not going to do the.
I got some rope too for you.
I don't know what she has in mind, but it's gonna. I'm not gonna do the.
Oh, the skull back here saying, you know what?
Oh yeah.
Go to hell.
Before we go, we gotta. So here's Green Man. We call him that. Oh, great.
He just got killed.
He got killed again, but he watched
Stop
the show.
playing
tonight.
with his nuts.
I'm not pleased. Anyway.
I should have said that. That was
one of our
right.
usual co-hosts that sits around with us, and
He's
so anyway,
always
and
playing
also,
with
if
his
you have any
bones.
questions for the Green Man, let us know. He's happy to answer. Absolutely.
He likes to fuck with us too, buddy.
That's another whole. We talked about it once before. Since the last show, there's been so much weird shit that goes.
You know,
on.
I don't like his attitude lately either.
I don't either. I mean,
He's always walking around tearing shit up.
comes home drunk.
Yeah. Always with that fucking shitty ass grin.
Yeah. He's like, it ain't me. It wasn't my fault.
It's always your fault.
Yeah, tearing stuff up. He eats everything in the house, and he's
God,
still
he
skinny.
might be skin and bones, but he eats like a fat ass.
He does. Anyway, you guys.
All right.
Alrighty,
Enough of
you guys. Thank you for showing up.
Good night, sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Out of here.